the Google boys, the engineers who are too, what would you say, naively oriented towards empirical truth to note when they're being politically incorrect, they wrote a great book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts, which I really like. It's a very good book, and it's engineers as psychologists. And so they'll say all sorts of things that no one with any sense would ever say that happen to be true. So women's use of pornography is literary. Who are the main protagonists in female pornographic fantasy? Pirates, werewolves, vampires, surgeons, billionaires. Tony Stark, you know?
Yeah.
And so the basic pornographic narrative is Beauty and the Beast. Those 5 categories. Terrible, aggressive male, tameable by the right relationship, hot erotic attraction. And so I would say to the young men who, and I have many times to the young men who are locked in isolation, it's first of all, join the bloody club, because the default value of a 15-year-old male on the mating market is 0. And there's reason for that. You know, and 0 is a bit of an exaggeration, but not much. And the reason for that is, well, what the hell do you know? Like, you're not good for anything. You have potential, and maybe plenty, and hopefully that'll be made manifest. But you shouldn't be all upset because you're the same loser as everyone else your age has always been since the beginning of time. But then you might ask, well, what should I do about it? And the answer is, get yourself together. You know, stand up straight with your shoulders back, take on some adventure, find your calling, abide by your conscience, put yourself together, and you'll become attractive. And we know this is, look, we know this is true. The correlation between male sexual opportunity and relative masculine status is about 0.6. That's higher than the correlation between intelligence and academic achievement. I don't think that there's a larger correlation between 2 independent phenomena in the entire social science and health literature than the correlation between relative male social status and reproductive success. It's by far the most fundamental determinant. There's a documentary I watch from time to time, which I think is the most brilliant documentary I've ever seen. It's called Crumb. And it's the story of this underground cartoonist, Robert Crumb, who was in high school, was in the category of males for whom a date was not only not likely, but unimaginable. So he was at the bottom of the bottom rung, and almost all the reactions he got from females wasn't just no, it was like, are you out of your mind? Like, with that contempt, right? And then he became successful. And so the documentary is super interesting because it tracks the utter pathology of his sexual fantasies, because he was bitter and resentful. And like, if you want to understand the psychology of serial sexual killers and the like, and you watch Crumb, you'll find out a lot more about that than anybody with any sense would want to know. But then he makes this transition, and partly because he does take the heroic adventure path, and he actually has a family and children, and he's actually a pretty functional person, as opposed to his brothers, one of whom commits suicide and one of whom is literally a repeat sexual offender. It's a brutal documentary. But what he did in his adolescence, after being rejected, was he found what he was interested in. He was a very good artist. He was very interested in music, and he started to pursue those sort of single-mindedly, and he became successful. And as soon as he became successful, and the documentary tracks this beautifully, he's immediately attractive to women. And then you might ask too, even if you're cynical, it's like, well, why do I have to perform for women? And the answer to that is something like, why the hell should they have anything to do with you if you're useless? They're going to have infants. They don't need another one.